This has been the painful reality of many Nigerian families. Grab your popcorn and listen as I tell you how love faded, distance grew, and a family became strangers. Once upon a time, in the quiet but affluent neighborhood of Ikoyi, Lagos, stood a mansion that was known not for its size or luxury, but for the laughter that once lived in it. It was a kind of laughter that spilled through open windows, echoed down tired hallways, and lingered long after the voices had gone silent. Neighbors often smile when they pass the gates. The Adebayo family was admired by many, wealthy, respected, and deeply united. In a city where riches often replace warmth, they were rare. Their wealth was obvious, yes, but what truly set them apart was the visible bond between them. They were not just a family that lived together. They were a family that belonged together. Mr. Oladipo Adebayo was a man of discipline and ambition, a successful oil and logistic entrepreneur. He commanded respect in boardrooms and confidence in negotiation. His presence was firm but cruel, authoritative but fair. He believed deeply in structure, legacy, and responsibility. He often said, "Money will finish, but values will bury you with honor." His wife, Mrs. Adenike Adebayo, was his balance. Where he was firm, she was gentle. Where he spoke loudly, she listened deeply. Her voice was soft, almost musical, and her patience seemed endless. Faith lived in her bones. Prayer flowed from her lips as easily as breath. She believed love was the strongest form of discipline, and that no house could stand without God at its center. Together, they built their home on love, discipline, prayer, and intentional togetherness. They were blessed with 5 children. Tunde, the firstborn, arrived with expectations already waiting for him, serious, observant, and intelligent. He learned responsibility early. He rarely laughed loudly, but when he did, it meant something. His father saw himself in Tunde and groomed him carefully. Kemi, the second-born, she is warm, expressive, and deeply artistic. She painted before she could properly write and saw beauty where others saw chaos. She felt emotions deeply and loved fiercely. When the family argued, Kemi was the peacemaker, the quiet bridge between storms. Sola, the third child and second son, was born with fire in his vein. He spoke his mind without fear, challenged authorities, and refused to be silenced. Many saw him as rebellious, but beneath his hard edges lived a deeply emotional heart, one that loved fiercely and felt everything deeply. Yemi, the fourth born and the third son. He was playful, curious, endlessly ambitious. He was the dreamer, the joker, the risk-taker, always planning something new, always chasing something bigger. He laughed the loudest and cried the quickest. And then there was Dara, the baby of the house. She was fragile, affectionate, and inseparable from her mother. She never slept without holding Mrs. Adebayo's wrapper, as if the fabric itself was proof that safety still existed. She was adored, protected, and fiercely loved by everyone. Their home was once alive, always having Sunday lunch together. Movie nights turned into playful arguments, ending in compromises and laughter. Birthdays felt like festivals, live bands, endless food, cousins everywhere, neighbors dropping in uninvited but welcome warmly. Late night prayers were said together in the living room, hands joined, voice rising and falling in unity. They were rich, yes, but richer in love. Believing education was the greatest inheritance they could give, Mr. and Mrs. Adebayo made a decision that would unknowingly fashion their world. They sent their children away, not out of neglect, but hope. Tunde was sent to United States to study engineering. Kemi left for Canada to pursue fine arts. Sola moved to Germany to study medicine. Yemi traveled to the United States to study business. Dara later joined a boarding school in South Africa. At first, distance felt manageable. Weekly video calls were sacred. Family group chats buzzed with updates, photos, complaints, and laughter. Care packages crossed oceans. The parents counted time zone and stayed awake late just to hear familiar voices. But time and distance has a way of quietly loosening bonds. School became work became pressure, Pressure became survivor, and survivor slowly became life. Calls turned into texts, text turned into voice notes turned into "I'll call you later." Later never came. Birthdays were remembered late, anniversaries passed quietly, family prayers became individual whisper in foreign rooms. Years passed. The siblings stopped checking on one another. They adapted new cultures, new accents, new beliefs. They married foreigners, had children who spoke different languages, and knew Nigeria all in true stories. Home became something they used to have. Their parents became memories. Back in Ikoyi, the mansion slowly lost its voice. Mrs. Adebayo still cooked large meals out of habit, only to pack most of it away. She kept the children's room untouched, dusting trophies, arranging beds no one slept on, folding clothes that no longer fit anyone. Sometimes she sat on Dara's bed and cried quietly, clutching the small pillows that still smelled faintly of childhood. Mr. Adebayo sat on the balcony every evening, staring at the gates, not cautiously waiting, but hoping, as if one day a familiar car might pull in without warning. They called, they pleaded, they invited, "Just come home for Christmas. Your father's birthday is next month." Excuses piled up, work deadlines, visas, children, schedules, rejection after rejection. The woman who once laughed loudly now cried in a pillow. The man who commanded boardrooms now spoke to silence. One morning while climbing the stairs, Mr. Adebayo collapsed and diagnosed with heart failure. The doctor spoke carefully, but the message was brutal. He may not have much time. For the first time in 2 decades, panic crossed oceans. Flights were booked, meetings cancelled, lives paused, not out of love, but obligations. They all arrived, almost a stranger to the house they once ran through. They stood in the living room like visitors in a museum. No hugs lingered, no warmth followed. Mrs. Adebayo broke down openly. Mr. Adebayo smiled weakly. "You have grown," he whispered. Silence answered him. Days passed awkwardly. Polite conversations replaced affection. Memories were avoided. One evening, Mrs. Adebayo cooked their childhood favorites. As they ate quietly, she spoke softly. "Do you remember fighting over the last piece of meat?" Then Mr. Adebayo spoke. "You forgot us, and worse, you forgot yourselves." The next morning, the parents gathered them. "We didn't send you away to lose you," Mrs. Adebayo cried. "We sent you away to grow." Today finally spoke. "We were surviving, and so were we," Mr. Adebayo replied, "except we survived alone." Dara broke down. "I don't even know who we are anymore." Slowly, painfully, they talked. Old wounds opened. Tears fell. Stories resurfaced. They walked through their childhood rooms, watched old videos, held faded photographs. Mr. Adebayo grew weaker but lighter. "Don't let my death be the reason you finally become family again." They didn't suddenly become close, but they stayed longer. They called more. They tried. And as the whole house breathed again, the parents held onto one truth. Even broken families can still find their way back if they choose to walk home. No matter how far life carries you, never forget home. Money, success, and foreign lands cannot replace family, because when everything fades, blood is still blood.